Friends, gather round, for we have ourselves another doozy of a trade war. This time, it's not just a skirmish, it's a full-blown economic battlefront. That's right, loves a good tariff more than a well-done steak has struck again. And if you thought the last round was intense, buckle up, because this one's going to be a wild ride. On March 11, 2025, President Trump decided to grace our neighbors to the north with a lovely gift: doubled tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. This move has sent shockwaves through the global market. That's right, a whopping 50% tax on those imports. Imagine the ripple effects this will have on industries relying on these materials. Because nothing says strong economy like making it more expensive to build things in America. From skyscrapers to bridges, the cost of construction is set to skyrocket.
It's all about protecting American jobs and industries. The administration argues that these tariffs will shield American workers from unfair competition. Canada is flooding the market with cheap steel and aluminum, hurting American workers. But is this the best way to level the playing field?
But let's be honest, this has all the hallmarks of a man who just loves a good trade war. It's almost as if the thrill of the conflict is the real prize here. It's like a hobby for him, except instead of collecting stamps, he collects disgruntled allies. And with each new tariff, the collection grows. This isn't the first time Trump has slapped tariffs on our Canadian friends. History seems to be repeating itself, but with even higher stakes. Back in 2018, he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. That move was controversial, to say the least. That little move sparked retaliatory tariffs and a whole lot of economic uncertainty. Markets were volatile, and businesses were left scrambling to adapt. But hey, who needs stable trade relations when you can have a good old-fashioned trade war, right? The drama, the headlines, the political theater, it's all part of the show. The thing is, these tariffs aren't just some abstract economic policy, they have real-world consequences. Factories may slow down, projects may be delayed, and costs will inevitably rise. And guess who ends up paying the price? It's not just the big corporations, it's the everyday American worker and consumer. That's right, you guessed it. American businesses and consumers. Small businesses in particular will feel the pinch as they struggle to absorb the increased costs. So next time you're at the store and see the price of beer cans has gone up, you can thank the tariff man himself. And it's not just beer. Everything from cars to electronics could see price hikes. Economic analysts are already predicting a ripple effect that could impact various sectors. The cost of raw materials will trickle down to the end products, affecting consumer prices across the board. Diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Canada are also taking a hit. Trade negotiations are becoming more strained, and the once friendly neighbors are now at odds. Protests are erupting, and the political climate is heating up. Both sides are digging in their heels, making it clear that this trade war is far from over. Meanwhile, American factories are trying to keep up with the changing landscape. Some are optimistic, hoping that the tariffs will indeed protect their jobs and industries. On the other side of the border, Canadian factories are bracing for impact. The increased tariffs could lead to layoffs and reduced production, affecting thousands of workers. The hope is that cooler heads will prevail and a new trade agreement can be reached. But until then, the economic uncertainty continues to loom large. So as you go about your daily life, remember that these tariffs are more than just political maneuvers. They have a direct impact on your wallet and the economy at large. Stay tuned, folks, because this trade war saga is far from over. And as always, we'll be here to keep you updated on every twist and turn. To truly understand the gravity of this latest tariff tantrum, we need to take a trip down memory lane. The story of the U.S. Canada trade war is a tale of escalating tensions, economic brinkmanship, and political posturing that has left both nations reeling. Buckle up, folks, it's going to be a bumpy ride. This roller coaster of trade disputes has had more twists and turns than a soap opera, and just when you think it can't get any crazier, it does. Our trade spat with Canada started in 2018, when Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, citing national security concerns. This move was unprecedented and sent shockwaves through the global economy. Yes, you heard that right, national security. The idea that Canadian steel and aluminum could pose a threat to the United States was met with widespread disbelief and ridicule. Apparently, those Canadian beer cans pose a bigger threat to America than, well, pretty much anything else. The absurdity of the situation was not lost on anyone, and it quickly became a topic of late-night comedy shows. Canada, understandably miffed, retaliated with tariffs of their own on a range of U.S. goods. This included iconic American products like bourbon and ketchup hitting the U.S. where it hurt. Fast forward to 2023, and things went from bad to worse. The economic fallout from the trade war was becoming increasingly apparent, with businesses on both sides of the border feeling the pinch. Trump, in his infinite wisdom, decided to reimpose tariffs on Canadian aluminum, claiming they were hurting American jobs. This move was seen as a desperate attempt to shore up support among his base. Again, Canada retaliated with tariffs on U.S. goods. The tit-for-tat measures created a vicious cycle of economic pain, with no end in sight. It's like watching a toddler throw a temper tantrum in a grocery store, except the toddler is the leader of the free world, and the grocery store is the global economy. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the consequences more far-reaching. And now, here we are in 2025, with double tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. The situation has escalated to a point where it seems almost impossible to de-escalate. The trade war rages on, leaving businesses and consumers caught in the crossfire. The uncertainty has made it difficult for companies to plan for the future, and consumers are feeling the impact in their wallets. It's enough to make you want to scream into the void, or perhaps into a pillow fort made entirely of Canadian bacon. The absurdity of the situation is matched only by its seriousness, as livelihoods and economies hang in the balance. Economists have been debating the long-term impacts of this trade war, with some predicting a prolonged recession if the tariffs remain in place. The ripple effects are being felt across various sectors, from manufacturing to agriculture. Small businesses in particular are bearing the brunt of the trade war. Many have been forced to close their doors, unable to cope with the increased costs and reduced demand for their products. Public sentiment is also shifting, with protests erupting in both countries. People are demanding an end to the trade war, calling for their leaders to find a diplomatic solution. Despite the ongoing tensions, there have been some attempts at diplomacy. Leaders from both nations have met multiple times, but so far these meetings have yielded little in the way of concrete results. The media has been covering every twist and turn of this saga, and social media is abuzz with opinions and reactions. It's a topic that has captured the public's imagination, for better or worse. As we look to the future, there is still hope that cooler heads will prevail. The relationship between the U.S. and Canada is too important to be derailed by a trade war, and there is a growing recognition that cooperation is the only way forward. If both sides can come to an agreement, there is potential for recovery and renewed economic growth. The lessons learned from this trade war could pave the way for a more stable and prosperous future. Until then, we can only hope that the leaders of both nations will find a way to resolve their differences and put an end to this costly and damaging trade war. Here's to hoping for a brighter, more cooperative future. Well, it seems our Canadian friends have finally had enough of the tariff man's antics. In a move that can only be described as bold, or perhaps completely justified, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has decided to hit back where it hurts: America's power grid. That's right, folks, Ontario is slapping a 25% tariff on electricity imports from the U.S. Now I know what you're thinking. John, electricity? Really? That's the best they could come up with? But hear me out. This is a strategic move, my friends. Ontario is a major exporter of electricity to the U.S., particularly to states like New York and Michigan. This tariff is going to make that electricity a whole lot more expensive, and those states are going to feel the pinch.
You want to play dirty? Two can play at that game.
It's a risky move for sure, but sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire, or in this case tariffs with more tariffs. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the economic fallout from this trade war is already being felt around the world. The ripple effects are spreading far and wide, touching every corner of the globe. From bustling metropolises to quiet rural towns, the impact is undeniable. People everywhere are glued to their screens, anxiously watching the news unfold, their faces etched with worry and uncertainty. Stock markets, those fickle beasts, are in a tizzy. The trading floors are a scene of chaos, with investors frantically trying to make sense of the rapidly changing numbers. Screens flash with red and green, graphs fluctuate wildly, and the tension in the air is palpable. It's a roller coaster ride, and no one knows when or where it will stop. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbled over 500 points after the tariff announcement, as investors panicked at the prospect of a full-blown trade war with one of America's closest allies. The sudden drop sent shockwaves through the financial world, leaving analysts and traders scrambling to reassess their strategies. In offices across the country, people huddled around screens, discussing the implications and trying to predict the next move. And it's not just the stock market that's feeling the heat. The effects are being felt on the ground as well. Factories are going silent, their once bustling floors now eerily empty. Businesses are closing their doors, unable to cope with the rising costs and disrupted supply chains. The stress is evident on the faces of business people everywhere as they grapple with the new reality. Businesses, both big and small, are scrambling to adjust to the new reality of higher costs and disrupted supply chains. The uncertainty is palpable. In tense boardrooms, executives are making tough decisions, trying to navigate the choppy waters ahead. Factory workers, once confident in their job security, now face an uncertain future. Shipping containers sit idle in ports, a stark reminder of the global interconnectedness that is now under threat. CEOs are losing sleep, economists are tearing their hair out, and even the normally stoic accountants are starting to sweat a little. The pressure is mounting, and the stakes are high. Every decision, every forecast, carries weighty consequences. The stress is taking its toll, and the cracks are beginning to show.
The truth is, nobody knows how this trade war is going to play out. The uncertainty is the hardest part. People are on edge, waiting for the next piece of news, the next development. The air is thick with tension, and the future feels more unpredictable than ever. News anchors deliver updates with somber expressions, and conversations in offices and homes are dominated by speculation and concern. It's like a game of economic chicken, with both sides refusing to back down. The stakes are high, and neither side wants to be the first to blink. It's a tense standoff, with each move carefully calculated. The negotiations are fraught with tension, and the outcome is far from certain. It's a high-stakes game, and the world is watching with bated breath. And in the end, it's the everyday folks, the businesses and consumers, who are going to get hurt the most. Small business owners are feeling the pinch, their livelihoods hanging in the balance. Shoppers move through stores with worried expressions, their purchasing power diminished. Families sit around dinner tables, discussing their financial futures with a sense of unease. The impact is personal, and the consequences are real. It is a heavy burden, and everyone is feeling its weight.